Welcome everyone to the first meeting in 2022. I hope you all had a great holiday and we're ready to make this a better year than last year, right? Well, let's welcome to the Tuesday, January 11th, 2022 meeting of the Urbana Public Arts and Culture Commission. It's a meeting via Zoom webinar because of the pursuant to the gubernatorial disaster proclamation and declaration of emergency for the city of Urbana, Illinois, related to the COVID-19 pandemic, and in accordance with changes to the Open Meetings Act, Public Act PA 1010640. It has been determined that in-person public meeting is not prudent or safe at this time. Members of the public body will attend remotely using Zoom webinar. Members of the public may attend via Zoom or view meetings remotely on Urbana Public Television through Comcast Xfinity on channel 6 and 1096, i3 broadband on channel 6, AT&T, UVerse on channel 99, and streamed on the web at https://livestream.com/Urbana. Welcome, Al. Shall we call the meeting? The meeting's been called to order, so we need a roll call and declaration of a quorum.
Absolutely. I'm going to call roll today. Commissioner Fuller.
Present.
Commissioner Headland.
Present.
Commissioner Modica.
Present.
Commissioner Rose. So far absent. Commissioner Sheen.
Here.
Commissioner Buckman.
Present.
Commissioner Pinilla. President Gonzalez. And Commissioners Ebony Smith is absent. Okay. I believe you still have quorum.
Great. So do we have any, now we need to discuss the approval of minutes from the previous meetings.
We had draft meeting minutes that were uploaded a little bit lately, so I imagine you may not have had time to view them. If you want, we can either hold it off to next meeting, or if you want to pull it up now, it's on the page for this week's meeting. What would you like to do?
Speaking for me personally, I looked about 2 o'clock and I didn't see it. So I probably got loaded after I left and did other things before I came. I can't speak for the others, but I didn't get a chance to read it. So either way.
Maybe it'd be prudent just to move it to next month.
What does everyone else think?
Good idea.
Okay.
All
They're
right.
up there, so you'll find them under this month's information, but I will duplicate them under next month's meeting information. And just so you know, that will not be on the agenda for our special meeting on the 18th. It would be on our February month that we're speaking of.
So that special meeting is definite for the to discuss the grants, I presume, right?
Correct.
Wonderful, thank you. And is it our regular time via Zoom?
Yes.
4:30? Great. Okay, I guess someone was trying to get in the door. Then we should move on to any additions to the agenda. Is there anything to add today?
There's just a correction today. We're going to have Giovanna Di Benedetto is moving her presentation to next month in February, and we instead will be having Leslie Smith with the 2020 Urbana Arts Grant Black Voices Dramatic Arts Production. I'll introduce her as the last grant presentation on today's agenda.
Okay, great. Would there possibly be any public input available?
Not that I'm aware of. I have not received any public input.
Okay. Then we are ready for some presentations. And the first item on the agenda is the staff report presented by Rachel Storm.
Excellent. All right, just pulling up my PowerPoint for today, folks. This will be a bit of a shorter report, mainly because we had a holiday and winter break and other things happening, and we tend over that period of time not to have as many programs going on, but I certainly do have some updates to share. So this is your January 2022 Arts and Culture Commission staff report. I typically want to just give you an idea of how we're impacted by COVID-19. So that continues to be of impact for us. We have not only typically virtual programs, but we had talked about going back to some in-person programming. This past month, we were able to do one Young Artist Studio in person, but now we're already discussing putting them all virtual for the foreseeable future until we can reassess with the library. So for now, all of our events are by and large virtual, if not outside. We are moving forward with the part-time program specialist position. To my knowledge and to date, I have the position has not yet been posted, but it will be a part-time position to assist the coordinator with the arts and culture program. So as soon as that does get posted, I will email it, and I hope, and of course, post it all over. But we will be also really asking our commissioners to help us get the word out about that job opening. Again, we do have a new staff support assistant. I mentioned her at the last meeting, Laura Weiler-Schaff, and if you haven't had a chance to go by the city building and introduce yourself, do that if you can. She's our new front desk person in the community development office. I also wanted to note that we completed both the fall executive internship program and our community learning lab internship program through the university. And for now, we have paused both of those programs for this spring, just to give us a little bit of time since we are hiring that new position to get that person oriented and then perhaps bring back some internships for the summer and the fall. The most important information right now is our arts grants. This is the last week that people can submit arts grant applications. For anyone that this is new information, it's important to note that our arts grant cycle is yearly, so this is the deadline for the year. And our arts grants have a deadline of January 16th, this upcoming Sunday by 11:59 p.m. And I'll also mention that we give out $90,000 in available funds in the arts in a number of categories. Tier 1 is our smallest category. We have a mid-sized category called Tier 2, and Tier 3 tends to be our large-scale or festival events. We also have specific monies allocated for arts in the schools initiatives. These are initiatives that take place during the school day, so not an after-school program, but actually impact arts curriculum in the schools. So that's another category, and people typically apply in Tier 1 and can check whether their project proposal meets the eligibility for the arts in the schools, and they'd be considered for that special award. So those are our open calls for grants at the moment. We are already receiving lots of applications. As you may recall, this is the first year that we're going to electronic applications, and almost entirely. We do, of course, for anyone who has perhaps accessibility needs or for any reason can't access the website, they can request a paper copy, but we're really highly encouraging everyone to use our new Neighborly software. And so far, people can also, kind of put an application in earlier than I would see necessarily, because I only see the completed ones in years past, but now I can see applications in progress. So seeing a good number of applications come through already, and of course I expect the large amount to come this week. Typically people give them right before the deadline. I get kind of an avalanche of them. So I'm looking forward to receiving them. I've been fielding lots of calls and meetings and messages all about the grants and people's questions related to both the software, but also their own proposal. And I'm doing my best to answer to those promptly. We also are assembling juries, and I will be asking arts commissioners to serve on different juries for the arts grants. Not everyone will have to serve on a jury. We only have 2 juries that do tiers 1 and 2, and then of course the tier 3 applications come before you. I'll detail that process a little bit later in our agenda this evening, just to give you reminders. We are joined today by Ashanti Files, our poet laureate, and a little bit later in the agenda, she will be also giving a presentation about her activities and civic engagement of this past year as her tenure as our second ever poet laureate comes to a close. We are going to be celebrating her as well, so you'll get some information about that sent out. It will likely at this point be a virtual celebration, but we're going to be asking you all to attend and be a part of us celebrating all of her achievements of the past year. Her most recent activity has included the Champaign Public Library short story competition. She was a judge. She's been involved in the Safe Haven Dinner and other community efforts to promote peace and to address community violence and trauma, doing really wonderful work there that draws upon both her experiences as a mental health nurse and also her use of poetry as a tool for healing and resilience. She also worked on some projects related to holiday stress and a toy drive, and most recently did an interview with Poet's Choice. She's also casting her hat in for the American Academy of Poets Fellowship. So please send all the good vibes. We sent her, of course, a letter of support for that application and hoping that she'll be considered for that as well. Our Youth Poet Laureate applications closed, so we are in the process of doing that, and we will also be naming a Youth Poet Laureate very, very soon. And hopefully that student will be able to start bright-eyed and bushy-tailed. Lots going on in our local schools related to COVID-19, and our hope is that when we announce it, it'll be a kind of a more stable and easy time for that person to get started. Another update is related to our Young Artist Studio program. We did recently have our Kwanzaa Art Exploration project as part of Kwanzaa 365. The workshop was led by Stacey Robinson, and youth who participated also created lots of images that represented the different principles of Kwanzaa, and then discussed, what they kind of created as part of living those principles and having kind of New Year's resolutions of living those principles year round. So thinking about things like unity and creativity and how do we channel that 365 days of the year. So that was a wonderful program that we had right before many went on fall break. Our next Young Artist Studio is Create Your Own Self-Portrait with Saba Manetti Tesfaye. She was also one of our featured artists of the Growing Community Public Arts Initiative, whose own portrait work is now featured on a bench in the Habitat Community Garden. She'll be leading a workshop involving watercolor paint and some portrait illustration for young children. So that will be coming up in February. We also continue the art show and tell periodically, where young people can share what they've been working on. Juxtaposition remains on display, but we are going to be making plans very soon for transitioning to the next art exhibit. I'll have some more details on that next month. But Juxtaposition is still on display at the Urbana Free Library and at the City Building. So if you haven't had a chance to go view Durango Mendoza's work, please go check it out. Durango was a very beloved person to the arts program, had been a very active person up until he passed away in November of 2020. So we really invite you to celebrate him and his work with us. His words and his artwork are on display. I do want to point out that we continue to work on the pole banner project. So we have some of our poles being repaired, hopefully in the near future, so that we can continue to put up the new pole banner art. But you'll see in downtown Urbana, many of the poles already have artwork from various artists on display. I've also been working closely with Imagine Urbana, the comprehensive 20-year comprehensive plan, and that whole process, as well as with the staff that are working on that. We've particularly been working on the story mapping of Urbana arts and culture. So really thinking about our particular area of interest on the Imagine Urbana comprehensive plan. We've been working together to talk about the program's growth in the past 20 years, which means the entire existence of the arts program, because we're not 20 years old. And sort of how our project has came into fruition and how it's changed. So that will be assembled, and representatives from Imagine Urbana are actually planning to attend our February meeting to share what we've pulled together, to also get impact and influence from the Arts Commission, and also talk to you about how you can influence the comprehensive planning for the next 20 years for the arts. We also have a very important and exciting bit of news, and that is that our former Arts Commission Chair, Pat Salmon, made a donation of $3,000 to support the Urbana Utility Box Mural Program and a new downtown public mural that'll be put in this spring. This is very exciting, and Pat has wanted to support the program financially after years of supporting it, so directly with her time. She hopes to continue to give on an annual basis to the arts program, but we're just really grateful to have this donation. And I'm going to send a note to Pat, but I want to encourage you all to send, thank yous to Pat for this support of the Arts and Culture Commission and its programs.
Can you send us a contact?
I sure will. Yes,
Thank
I will.
you.
So I want to mention a few recent speaking engagements. They were somewhat mentioned at the previous meeting, some of these, but I want to make sure that they're on your radar. So I did go in front of City Council on December 6th and gave a report on the AARP grant-funded Growing Community Public Arts Initiative that we did. I also talked to them about the acceptance of the Illinois Arts Council program grant. This is an error here, but it's over $5,000 was given in program grant monies this year for 2022 from the Illinois Arts Council, and that was formally accepted by the City Council. I've done all of these sort of associated filing and things like that related to accepting that grant, but I wanted to give you that update. We also participated as a member of an empowerment roundtable that was organized by Parkland College and the YWCA, talking a bit about the arts, of course, as different women leaders were sort of representing different areas and sectors. A lot of us came from the arts, actually, to talk about the arts and creative sectors. I also gave an arts grant workshop at Parkland Planetarium that we've been circulating around quite a bit as a virtual workshop for anyone applying for an Urbana Arts grant. And I was able to, by invitation, go to the Metropolitan Mayor's Caucus, to the Age-Friendly Communities Committee, and give a presentation on the successes of our AARP grant, Growing Community. And that was a really wonderful privilege to be able to go and speak to both mayors, but also nonprofit sector leaders and other folks that were part of the Age-Friendly Communities Committee in thinking about applying for similar grants for their own communities and how to go about it. I want to mention some upcoming events. Like I said, I'll be sending out some details regarding a celebration of our Poet Laureate, Ashanti Files. We also have the Dr. Martin Luther King Countywide Celebration coming up here on Sunday the 16th at Krannert Center. And we also have the annual Flatlands Dance Festival on January 22nd through the Department of Dance at the University of Illinois. And I want to mention a couple of things. You will soon see in the next month, likely some announcements related to both the Great Art Doors, the project that we have between Spurlock Museum, 40 North, and the Park Districts and us. We'll do a new call for art for local artists to submit art installations, sculptural pieces for our area parks and gardens. And those will be selected during this spring for being installed over the summer and stay up during the warm months. We just had, obviously in November, all of them come down from the last cycle, and we're already gearing up for the next. We also will have, as soon as it starts to get warmer, we'll actually start to install the utility box murals and make announcements about those selections as well. And we are in discussions about what the Committee for Boneyard Arts Festival will be planning in terms of dates and everything. And so you'll soon see some announcements related to Boneyard Arts Festival dates. Not only do we often fund Boneyard Arts Festival and have a history of funding it, but we also are represented on the Urbana Committee, and of course try to promote lots of artists getting involved in the festival from many disciplines. As usual, I always point people to Americans for the Arts COVID Relief Guide, so continue to use that as a resource for any artists reaching out to you about support in getting them through the difficulties of the COVID-19 time for all of us. There's a lot of information about relief monies, but also opportunities and both federal, state, and local opportunities for folks. And that's my presentation for this evening. Thank you for your time. Do let me know if you have any questions at all. Any questions?
I have one, just to make sure. When was the event for Ashanti Files that's coming up?
So we're still working out the exact details, but I'll send
That's
it
why.
out to you as soon as we have that. And of course, everyone on this call is invited and the whole public's invited. So we'll be sharing it far and wide.
I noticed the dates were on the other two events, and so it caught my attention. Thank you.
Of course.
When we talk about local artists, how does the word local translate?
Well, typically I would say local tends to be Champaign County when we're using those terms. It doesn't mean simply Urbana. There is really hardly anything that we do that's limited to Urbana. We prioritize Urbana for Poet Laureate and the Youth Poet Laureate. And certainly Urbana is prioritized oftentimes in how we think about things, but our opportunities are open to all. And for things like the Urbana Arts Grants in particular, you can be from anywhere and apply for an Urbana Arts Grant. But the eligibility guidelines means that it has to take place in Urbana, it has to benefit Urbana, and of course, when people are jurying and judging the applications, I always say that we're going to look for meaningful engagement with Urbana. You know, why Urbana, why here? And so that's often illustrated by how meaningful the collaborations are. So if somebody, say, comes from out of state and they are on a touring, journey across the United States and they want a pit stop in Urbana and they'd like Urbana's Arts and Culture Commission to give them a grant to do so, we want to know, what businesses are you collaborating with in Urbana? Are there any local people that will benefit from being employed by your group while you're here, or will be able to engage? Are people moved from audience to engaged, actors in terms of what they're doing? Those are all big questions for us. And so it's really looking for the collaboration and the meaningful kind of placement in Urbana. I don't know if that answers your question, but that's typically how I talk about it with respect to the Arts Grant Program, especially. And sometimes we do get applications from other states or other, people from out of town, and they really can be meaningful if they have an in-town collaborator. Yeah. I'd say that usually gives them the leg up.
Yeah, that sort of event collaboration has been growing over the years too.
Yeah.
From the original years that we started this program.
And we sometimes have things like our established organizations here, say the library or the park district, bringing in touring artists, on an Urbana Arts Grant. But usually we really look for something that also engages Urbana in a meaningful way. Yes, be an audience, but maybe even more meaningfully than that. And so that's what we tend to look for. Yeah. Any other questions? All right, thank you so much.
Yeah. Well, next we're ready for our first presentation by our current, I don't want to say outgoing, but we have to at some point, our Poet Laureate Ashanti Files. She's going to present an overview of her civic engagement activities and accomplishments during her tenure. Welcome.
One moment, Ashanti, and I'll have your presentation pulled up. Just one second. Here we go. Can everyone see that all right?
Yes.
Excellent.
You guys, I am so deeply humbled and privileged to have served as Poet Laureate. And when I was creating this, I had several pauses and lots of tears and lots of praises for Rachel, for the program, for you, Mayor, for the arts commissioners, for this opportunity even existing, because it seriously changed my life. And in less than 5 minutes, I have to tell you how. So, Rachel, if you'll go to the next slide, please.
I sure will.
Some of the highlights during my tenure was that I've spent time entrenched in the Urbana community. You guys may or may not know, but I'm originally from Chicago. I came to U of I for school, moved around a little bit, and then I thought, okay, where do I want to raise my family? And Champaign-Urbana came to both my husband and I's mind. So being entrenched that way was totally different from being entrenched as an artist. Education was my primary focus. You guys know I have a soft spot for the teens, collaborating with other artists and community groups. Rachel, again, you're just going to hear your name a lot. Just coordinating and responding to emails and saying yes. This was my year of yes. And I can honestly say everyone who reached out got some kind of event or workshop with me. There were a couple of requests where we dug for a little more follow-up and couldn't get it, but those people who were committed to having me speak had me speak. I also focused on performances within the community, and I just left it to those three things for the purposes of time for this meeting, and I'd like to share a little bit of each with you. The first thing, the joy of my heart, my love, my passion, was educational workshops. I've been privileged to host educational workshops on emotional identification and regulation. I taught how writing was a solid coping skill for stress at both the elementary, secondary, and collegiate levels. And I could not have done this without the support of your office and the title you gave me, kind of to back me and give me the credentials I needed to get through the door. I was able to work with the Campus Middle School for Girls and Unit 4 schools and the University of Illinois. And I was with University of Illinois 2 times. And I was able to publish a writing manual that kind of put my teaching style into black and white. And one of the biggest surprises I got as Poet Laureate was I went to the Dream Academy. It's a program run by Tracy Dace, I believe his name is. And so I went there and I did an afternoon workshop with them. And within 6 weeks, just following those prompts, they were able to write their own book of poetry. And these were maybe, it was less than 20 young women, phenomenal, all ages from 8 to 17, able to dig deep emotionally and use writing as a skill, and specifically poetry as a skill to express themselves. And that was one of the biggest surprises that I had, that Rachel, you've always believed in me. Like, Rachel was so encouraging, saying, yes, you can do this. Yes, you are a subject matter expert. And having somebody be able to use what I teach them to create was a phenomenal privilege and blessing. And I'm going to try not to cry.
It's okay.
I'm kind of speechless. Okay. Can we go to the next slide, please?
Yes.
The second component that I wanted to talk about during my tenure was collaborations. The Poet Laureate Showcase, if you didn't get a chance to see it, please watch it on YouTube. It was enthralling. At some points, I forgot that I was supposed to be moderating because I was just enraptured in the other poets. And I really felt like an advocate in the community because there were 2 women who came to speak, Jasmine Somerville and Janelle Davenport Pleasure, and they both were writing. And through the collaboration of the Arts Council and the Urbana Free Library with Carol Linsky, we were able to launch their books. So just having develop those relationships and saying, hey, I believe in you. How can I promote you? Let me help you promote you. It elevated the poetry in our community. And to be frank, it gave Black women a voice on a larger scale than they would have even thought was possible. So you've not only given me as a Black woman the opportunity to share my wisdom and my art and my voice, but just by having my picture available, it encouraged so many other women of color to step forward and share their arts and build these bridges and connections within the community. It was phenomenal. I was able to collaborate with the Dream Girls Academy, which is a different program from the Dream Academy. This one focuses on young women, mostly teenage middle school girls to even adult women. And I was able to do a workshop on righteous anger and how we go from channeling that anger and acting out in maladaptive and dysregulatory ways and channeling it into something positive, not only for yourself, but for your community. So through these collaborations, it was really important for me to not just say, hey, you got to take a moment and take care of yourself and acknowledge your emotions, but also offer a tool that community engagement can be healing, not just for yourself, but for your community as well through sharing your stories. Another big surprise was when the YWCA asked me to collaborate with them on their Stand Against Racism campaign. And what I did was I tailored 6 custom poems just for their campaign. I recorded them, and then they were able to offer them as openers to kind of touch the hearts and minds of the people who engaged with them. And that was challenging for me because I'm used to being a nurse, scientific left brained, and then an artist, creative right brain. And for that project, I had to merge the two. So it was an opportunity for me to both grow and develop as an artist, as well as do something meaningful in our community. The last one I wanted to highlight, there was a lot of things, but I chose just kind of like the ones that I thought you guys would want to hear most about, was the Viral Silence campaign. I did that in conjunction with the IMC with Keith Moore. And this was a statewide campaign that focused in Chicago. It focused in Champaign, Illinois, and then they were also in Carbondale, and each kind of metropolitan area contributed something. And the Champaign-Urbana's contribution was a documentary about the impact that the IMC and Sounds Like Community had during our pandemic, and how it was one consistent venue that people could safely experience art during the pandemic. We were able to use the Writers of Oya and Urbana Arts Grant fundee to conduct these interviews. And I tried to keep the 2 programs separate, being poet laureate and being moderator for that. But that was a program that I just had a ball like merging both of my roles with. Those women gained interviewing skills, self-confidence skills, and honestly, they met the mover and shakers in our community, like Danielle Chenoweth, and were able to even establish some mentorships with them. So as poet laureate, I absolutely collaborated with other artists and other organizations to show that art not only thrives in Urbana, but that art is essential in building community and building up our community, especially during this difficult time. In regards to community performances, I'm a spoken word artist, so performances is a really big thing for me. It's parallel to the educational workshops, but it's more personal for me. In the educational workshops, I give. And then in the performances, I can just be me and thrive. But recognizing the responsibility of my post, I made sure to contribute to performances that made a difference and impacted our community in a major way. The first one was the Black Her Story Slam, and that's when we invited not only Black female poets, but any person who identified as a woman and of color to come and contribute their voices. I collaborated with Poet Laureate Emeritus Will Rieger, who is my mentor and just a phenomenal helper and advocate. I mean, he's so wise. And we did the Ides of March. That was a community poetry reading. I was featured on a podcast, Thoughts of Idealists, where we talked about imposter syndrome. And we even talked about how poetry can help you overcome the feelings of inadequacy we sometimes face as women in professional roles. I contributed to Pandemics as a Portal to Change. That was a exhibit hosted by the Krannert Art Museum, where I contributed a poem, and that was just phenomenal. Like, I can honestly say I'm in a museum now. I never could have done it without this. And then we contributed to Sounds Like Community. They did a live and virtual show on survival to address Sexual Assault and Domestic Abuse Awareness Month. That one featured some of the members of the Writers of Oya and myself as well, speaking and writing about the impacts of domestic violence and sexual assault on our community. I can honestly say that was the hardest performance that I had to do. It was very personal for me, but again, I feel as though the community was elevated by that. wildest dreams. Oh my goodness, you guys. I feel like I've got a month left so I can just let loose and tell you, like, oh my gosh. I was named a Martha's Vineyard Institute of Creative Writing Voices of Color Poet Fellow. I never would have dreamed to even apply, first of all, think I was qualified, second of all, and then actually win without being named the Urbana Poet Laureate. I won a trip to Martha's Vineyard for 7 days where I learned from some of the brightest minds in writing. And I took that and I brought as much of it as I could to our community. I learned a lot at Martha's Vineyard, and then I brought it and incorporated it into our teen writing retreats. Coming into it, I was like, Rachel, if we don't do anything, we have to do this. We have to do something for my teens. You know, I love my teens. And so I was able to not only teach them, but get to know them individually. I was able to read each, like, I asked them all to bring writing samples in a journal, and I gave each of them individualized feedback, because there's nothing worse than being a writer and being told you suck without somebody telling you why. And I was able to tell them why they were magnificent. And I could just see the lights go off in their eyes, knowing that you can write. It is sustainable as a career, and it's important as an individual. I was able to write a second book, Awaken 2, similar to the Awaken 1 journal, except this one was tailored for adults. And it featured coloring pages, poetry, as well as writing prompts, so that individuals could reflect on their emotions and learn positive ways to regulate their emotions. Another big thing that I didn't know was possible or could happen without this title, I spoke at my first national conference. It was the National Guild for Community Arts Educators. So I was able to present at a national conference to people just like me, to people just like the ones who write you grants every year in hopes of having an impact on their community. I was able to encourage them. I was able to tell them to reach out to resources like their arts commissioners like you, like their coordinators like Rachel, to believe in their dreams, because if they don't give their effort, they never know what can happen. I'm speechless. How often have you guys seen me speechless? To sum up, my life has been changed. I didn't know what power I had, and I didn't know how complete strangers could change my life. So thank you, Rachel, so much. Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, commissioners, for the opportunity to serve. So often we forget the importance of service. And it reminds me of a quote in the Bible that says, "Let the greatest among you serve." And you guys gave me the privilege of service. So I'm sorry if I went over time, but thank you so, so much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ashanti.
What a year you had.
Amazing.
Thank
I
you,
made the
Ashanti.
most of it.
You really did. I want to take any questions for Ashanti from anyone here on the commission.
I just want to say that I love your passion, and it is just remarkable. Your presentations and all of the programs and all of your work is just phenomenal. So thank you.
Thank you.
And if you would believe it, this is cherry picked. I have Ashanti keep, and same with Will, during his tenure, both had really worked to keep a list going of engagements just so that we were tracking it. It's huge. You know, she mentioned some engagements at like the schools. She was at every Urbana school, even the University Laboratory High School. She went to classrooms at all grade levels. I mean, just really phenomenal. So the reach has been great for the Poet Laureate program, for it being only 2 years old. I mean, Will's on this call as well. So Will and Ashanti, we benefit from these dynamos being in these kinds of roles. You've set a high bar for whoever comes after you. That's all I've got to say. Pity them.
Well, and the fact that during the pandemic, usually I'm into many schools within the region with our music programs, and the schools have been afraid to invite people in. So the fact that they wanted you to come in, I think, is fabulous.
Well, and she came in Zoom. Yeah, she accommodated them too.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
It's great.
I want to mention that one of the things I value so much about you, Ashanti, is that you were able to draw upon all these magnificent strengths that you have, being a mental health registered nurse, like drawing upon lots of your own expertise and really using that to engage people. There were so many things that you did that I think promoted like healing and transformation in the community through the arts that haven't happened before, and just I think hopefully will pave the way for more and more of that to happen, and for other people to take up the baton and keep that moving forward. One of the things that Ashanti did this past couple months was a workshop for mothers who've lost sons to gun violence in Champaign-Urbana, and using writing as a tool for thinking through trauma and grief and, working through everything that comes in the aftermath of such a horrific loss. And it's like, that is brilliant. I want to know what other poet laureate in the whole nation is doing that work. So I just think that we're really lucky to have you. And I'm just grateful for some dynamo poet laureates that now they get to be poet laureate emeritus, and we're going to just start forming a club.
Well, we'll beat you to that. He said we will be a fellowship of poet laureate emeritus. How do you
I like the title.
Yeah. We'll come up with a cool name.
Mm-hmm. That's wonderful. Well, thank you so much for your work, Ashanti. Do you want to let people know how they can get in touch with you?
Absolutely. Facebook, email. Rachel told you guys that I'm applying for the American Academy of Poets Fellowship, and my goal is actually to expand the Writers of Oya program through libraries. So any goodwill that you have towards that, please send it my way. I'm super excited, and I'm not done with Urbana yet.
Do you want to share anything about what's next for you, Ashanti?
Yes, I plan to relocate to Phoenix, and I plan to continue to engage Urbana through the Writers of Oya and mentoring the Youth Poet Laureate. That is at the top of my list right now, just mentoring the people who come after me. I didn't recognize how important it was to be able to call or text Will and just have his listening ear, or say, what are your thoughts about this? And I finally got the courage to ask him to edit a poll. And just, like he said, it's going to be a fellowship. I couldn't imagine just walking away.
Yeah, that's wonderful. That's what we want. Those ongoing relationships. I think they're the root of lots of beautiful things happening. So
Yeah,
wonderful, wonderful work.
You planted a lot of good seeds.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Ashanti, and congratulations.
Thank you.
Well, speaking of poet laureates, I think we need to move on to our our very first one, Will Rieger. He's going to present the final report for the 2021 Arts Grant, the Red Herring Poetry and Arts Community Celebration. Welcome, Will.
And I'm gonna also be kind of as they say, I'm gonna be Vanna White and do the slideshow for Will as well. Can you all see this?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Okay. Whenever you're ready, Will. Are you with us?
Sorry.
You're fine.
Technology is not my friend.
All right, I've got your slides up. Can you see them okay?
Yeah, I can see the slides, but well, anyway, I was privileged to basically, in a word, fulfill one of my longtime dreams, which is to bring the poetry of the Red Herring Poetry Group back into the consciousness awareness of our community. I was very pleased with the turnout for this particular event, because we must have had 50 people, which is more people than I've ever seen at any sort of reading or other kind of poetry event in the community. And so that was very pleasing. Maybe next slide. I don't remember now what the slides. Oh, Rachel. I had very carefully stamped emeritus in big red letters across my
On
forehead.
his forehead.
She took it off. Next slide, please.
I say, once a poet laureate, you all are always poet laureates.
Okay, so here is a picture of Rachel introducing the program. It was held in the chapel at the Channing Murray Foundation. And Rachel is always so very supportive, and I will also say thorough. She knows a lot about what's going on, and I really relied on that over the last few years. And of course, myself talking about the reasons why I wanted this program to come out. And it was really more to acknowledge the idea that poetry can live so long in the minds of the public. I mean, these people were, I forget now the exact number of years, 36 years they had a group, something like that, from 1976 to 2007 or 8 or 9, somewhere. It's in the video, I think. But anyway, it was so inspiring to me to read through these poems, and I've read most of them now, and get a sense of who these fellow poets, fellow people of the community from the past, many of them were much older, how they saw the world and how they saw their community, how they saw everything that inspires the poet. And so I think that was probably the best contribution I could make to their story. Next slide, please. And here are two ladies. You probably know them. I don't remember their names off the top of my head. One is Charlotte, and I think the other one is, I don't remember, Martha or something. But these ladies were very helpful to me in this project because they were willing to talk about their father, Alex Sawyer, and share with me a lot of his poetry that wasn't really involved with the Red Herrings poet group, and also of their mother, who was, in my estimation, probably a better poet than the husband, but don't say anything. She was kind of the strong voice behind Alex and his participation. She wasn't actually, as far as I understand, an actual active member of the group, but she was definitely one who encouraged poetry and wrote poetry, and they shared all of that with me. It was so wonderful. Next slide. This is just a standard photograph of some of the back issues. If you are ever interested in the poetry of this group, you're welcome to go, and I think they'll still let you purchase $5 a copy or something for the back issues. They've been literally moldering in a back room in a milk crate for years until I started poking my nose in. And so there's still a lot out there if you want it. I encourage you to buy it. Next, please. These are some of our musicians. And as I recall, they came later in the show, but I'll talk about them now. These folks were the pinnacle of the evening, I would say. They composed a song. Well, actually, the gentleman in the yellow tie, Ralph Lewis, was the lyricist. He's the one who took the poem and wrote something that celebrated that poem and the ideas and emotions in it. And then we had this lady here. Her name was Marcia, I think. And she was the singer. And she sang along with the piano player there in the blue. I forget his name off the top of my head. You'll notice I've begun to forget a lot. So that's a personal issue, I guess. But the drummer, I'm sorry?
Could that be Mike McAndrew? I'm trying to tell from the picture.
The piano player?
Uh-huh.
Possibly. I have it written down somewhere. But the drummer there is Mike Minarchik, and he was unfortunately unable to attend the presentation because his wife had a job offer, and so they moved away. But Mike sent a video of his work, and he has with this drum set, I can't verbalize what he did, but he produced a piece of music that reflected the fields of Illinois, which was the subject of the poem. And if you are ever one who has gone out to find a cornfield or a wheat field or something in this area, you will recognize the sounds that he creates with his drum set. It's very, very moving to hear the land speak through the drum. Next several are just pictures of the crowd to give you a sense of how people participated. This is, of course, you know, Danielle Chenoweth. Her poem, which she read at the end, was an amazing piece. She based her poem on the poem by Ruth Walker, yes, thank you. And the poem was titled Mantis, and she basically created a new poem that kind of interwove itself with the old original poem into a new kind of, I want to use the word myth, because the whole topic here is of an earth mother in the form of a praying mantis who is dissatisfied with human wreckage on the planet. And so it's a wonderful piece, and I would love to have everyone see or listen to this particular poem, because it just capped off the evening so nicely. These are some of the artworks that were made as part of the program. This one that's bluish green on the left, this poem or a piece of art was created as a representation of being in the sunken gardens at Allerton. And it reflects the poem that deals with sunken gardens. It's part of a light show. You can see it's kind of green in the big picture and kind of blue in the little picture. It was red and yellow too. So below there is a praying mantis with its face crossed out. This actually was my daughter's piece. She was taking two poems very literally. The praying mantis was one and faceless was the other. And so she has removed the face and left the mantis. And then up at the top here on the right, we have The Caterpillar by Sheila Perinas. And then below is what would you call those things?
QR code.
Yeah, that. My son created this because he's a computer guy, and so he basically took several poems and encoded them so that they would form what's called asemic writing, which is writing or characters that represent writing but don't mean anything at all. And so he created this so that the poems would be embedded in this new alphabet sort of, and then set it to music. And it changes colors because he coded the emotions of the poetry, and so the colors will fade in and out as the emotion of the poems kicks in. And so that thing that he's got here is what you could use to go and reach his film. Here are the artists themselves. This is Basia Latovich, who wrote or painted a painting based on the womb. And what was so remarkable about her piece is that there is really no truly womb-like structure in the picture. She's completely redefined womb through another set of symbols. And as she says in the film, right about this point where the picture was taken, she says that these symbolisms that she's incorporated represent her life as a human woman and all the experiences that she has had being a woman, being a mother, being a lover. And it's really amazing, a powerful picture there. Next slide. There's our musicians. We have the singer, the composer, and the piano player. Next. From here on out, I think this is people who were featured because they were there. I don't know why you took these pictures. And then, of course, the sponsors. That's it.
Congratulations, Will.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
What questions do we have for Will about the Red Herring Poetry Celebration?
I don't have a question, but I have
Go
a
ahead,
comment.
Barbara.
It's so nice when I've driven past that building so many times and never been inside and always think of it mostly as a restaurant. And to see it come to life with other meaning and so meaningful. I'm glad that you chose that location. Maybe you were focusing on the former group anyway, but it's so nice to see that site being used.
Mm-hmm.
Yes,
I'm sort of on the opposite end of things where I used to serve as the chair of the board over at Channing Murray for a number of years. And I've seen the chapel lit up, but during the pandemic, it's been a challenge to have events and things going on. And I think you were able to pull it off safely. It was also at a good time where it seemed like cases were down and we were really able to gather pretty safely. And I really appreciate your work. And what I wanted to give you some praise for about this project is kind of similar to your work with the Poems on Glass during your time as the Poet Laureate. This idea of inviting visual artists to interpret poetry and in this case, performing artists and others as well, as a way to commemorate that work. And in the case of Poems on Glass, for poets to interpret murals. I just love that exchange of artists that are local interpreting each other's work and responding through the arts. It's really got a good exchange and of course transcends lots of different styles of art. I think it's a brilliant way to commemorate a local poetry group. And one of our things that we say as a purpose of the arts grant is commemorating local and multicultural traditions and histories. And I think this is a great example of a project like that takes a piece of Urbana history that some know about and some really don't know about our oldest running poetry group in town, and really taking a moment to shine a light on it. I think that's really brilliant.
Can I add one small point?
Mm-hmm.
Mike Menarchik could not participate because his wife got a job on the East Coast, but we also had a dance program available, and that was to be done by Janelle Pleasure Davenport and a partner of hers that she was going to dance with and interpret a poem. Unfortunately, she had COVID at the time, and so she had to pass up the opportunity to present.
Well, you were interested in sharing a very quick video. It's like less than a minute long. So I was going to share that real quick so you all could get a sense of some really powerful things that were happening at this event. So here is some singing. So can you see my screen?
Yeah.
Okay. Oh, hold on. Okay. wanted to share that for Will, and actually Michael McAndrew is the pianist. You can see the information was posted to our Instagram. So we try to post as much as we can about all the different grant projects that we're able to make it out to. Congratulations, Will.
Thank you very much. And thank you to this group for being so supportive of the poetic arts. I'm really grateful for that. And also I look forward to having, as Ashanti said, a whole pack of emeritus poet laureates who can sort of get together and do things on their own initiative.
Yeah,
So
I love
thank
that
you.
idea. Excellent. Thank you.
Wonderful. Well, Rachel, the next item, you said you would introduce the Leslie Smith for her presentation.
I believe actually next
Did I
is
skip
Jess
one?
DeVries.
Oh, you're right.
Yep,
Sorry.
go ahead.
I'm sorry, I skipped over it. Sorry.
All right.
Jess DeVries from the University YMCA's New American Welcome Center is here to present the final report for the 2021 Urbana Arts Grant, Thriving Together Community Art Installation.
Hi, thanks.
Welcome, Jess.
Thank
Jessica.
you. Rachel, can I share my screen, or if not, I sent you my
I
slides?
believe you can. Yeah. I am happy to be your slide person if you want. It's up to you.
No, I got it. Thank you. So I'm Jess DeVries. I'm from the University YMCA New American Welcome Center. If you haven't had the pleasure of visiting us at the Y, you might be surprised. We don't have a gym or a pool, and we are just there to provide great programming for students on campus and for the community as well. And I work specifically with the New American Welcome Center. And so there's 4 pillars at the Y that you can see on the screen, but the Welcome Center primarily focuses on social justice and global engagement. And so for the Welcome Center program, we're specifically working to make our community a place where immigrants can thrive and flourish. And we have a myriad of programs that work toward that mission, but one that specifically kind of links up with the Urbana Arts Grant that we got is what we call bridge building. And so it's opportunities that we offer to bring together immigrants and then also US born residents of our community, just to kind of get to know one another and maybe learn something about another culture that you might not have known otherwise. And the biggest way that we do that every year is through Welcoming Week. And so Welcoming Week is a kind of a festival that happens every year in September in our county. And it's a week-long series of events that just really celebrate the diversity of cultures in our community and celebrate immigrants and all that they bring when they choose to make Champaign County their home. And so it's planned every year by what we call our Welcoming Collaborative. That's a group of about 40 different organizations that plan the events together. The city of Urbana has been a part of the collaborative for a long time now. And this past year, the theme of Welcoming Week was Belonging Begins with Us. And it was focusing on the idea that we can make anyone feel belonging in our community, but as long as we try. And so with that theme, we applied for an Urbana Arts Grant and received it. And we came up with the idea to do what we called the Thriving Together Community Art Installation. And so the goal was to create take-home art kits with the Idea Store as our partner. And the kits were for people to make butterflies at home. And then what we did was we asked them to bring the butterflies back so that they could be installed at Lincoln Square Mall. And so this kind of shows you what we used to promote that. It was on the back of all of our Welcoming Week flyers, which were these, and then we had this on the back. And it had a little calendar of when people could come pick up their kits, when there would be a young artist workshop for kids to learn how to make their butterflies, and then also when to bring it back and when they could come see the installation. So here you can see we had help from an Idea Store volunteer named Ruda, who's also on our Board of Governors at the Y. I'm sorry if you can hear any beeping in the back. Dinner is being made. So This was kind of the idea for the butterflies that Ruta came up with. And then with the help of the idea store that we put together this instructions that came with every kit, and we had them translated into Spanish, French, and Chinese so anyone could make the kits at home. And then there was a young artist studio. So here on the left, you can see a picture from one of the kids who made their butterfly during the event. They made it at home. And there was also a Spanish translation available if anyone needed it. And then for anyone else who had a kit and needed assistance with how to put it together, my coworker Sitlali and then Ruta did an online demo where people could go and watch it. And that also had Spanish translation provided by Sitlali. We actually got about 40 views on it, so people used it, and I found that really exciting. This picture also demonstrates one of the slight challenges that we had with this project. The boy on the left, he didn't return his butterfly because he was too proud of it and wanted to keep it at home to display. So I think that we probably lost a few along the way for that same reason, but obviously he made a very beautiful butterfly. And then we installed the butterflies just outside of the Idea store at Lincoln Square Mall. This is a picture from one of the installation days, and it just kind of involved a lot of wonderful volunteers, including Rachel and one or two of Rachel's interns coming to kind of string the butterflies up on fishing wire. And then we had another person who was very helpful with going around on one of those like scissor lifts and putting them in the ceiling. And we had an unveiling on September 14th with the help of Rachel for pulling it off, and the butterflies all looked really wonderful hanging from the ceiling there. We were able to kind of put our artist statement up in all of the languages again. And then this picture gives you a better close-up of some of the butterflies that didn't make it on the ceiling, but made it on the wall next to the installation. And you can see just how really creative everyone got with their butterflies. There were about 200 kits, and we think we got most of them back. There were many, many butterflies, and it was just really awesome to see. And that's kind of what the whole project was. It was really, really fun. We were really excited to see how creative people got with their kits, and really excited to see how many that we got back. Welcoming Week will happen again this year. It's going to be September 9 through September 18th. So hope to see you all there. And if anyone has any questions about the project, I'd be happy to answer them.
Oh, thank you, Jess.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you.
I think this project was a great example of also wonderful collaboration between both the YMCA's New American Welcome Center and the Idea Store. Both had like individually indicated to me they were interested in applying for arts grants, but were kind of like, I don't know what we could do. We could do some sort of project. And I attempted to matchmake, which doesn't always go well, everyone, but it went really well here. And I just love how Jess and Jessie of the Idea Store were able to work together. I think it was just a wonderful project, and the reach of it was really awesome. And that I think speaks to the New American Welcome Center's Welcoming Committee, the intentionality that you all have put on really bringing people into the Welcoming Committee from both Champaign and Urbana, and bringing in lots of representatives that is felt because you have these natural collaborators. So I know that kits were given out in the, like all the way in the forest preserves and like in the parks. And, you know, there were also, you know, as you said, teachers that gave back kits. I mean, just using them in their classrooms. So just wonderful reach with that project.
Yeah, thanks, Rachel. Yeah, the most creative ones I think we got were from some, I think, Urbana arts classes. They were really cool, the things that they put on their butterflies, like
they had fur on them.
Yeah, like dangling beads. It was amazing. So
I think Commissioner Monica has a question, please.
Yeah,
sure.
Really a comment. I've been at Lincoln Square several times recently. My wife and I were walking there this afternoon and love the exhibit, have stopped and read the captions and the inscriptions and have admired the butterflies, and wasn't aware of the connection with the Arts Commission and seeing this presentation. I actually clicked the QR code on the on the PowerPoint, and inadvertently it started playing. That was some of the background noise that was going on.
That's awesome.
Actually, until I
Awesome.
silenced my phone, but just wonderful. Really appreciated the work that they did, and my wife and I were really carried away with it.
Thank you. I'm so happy to hear that.
I think that using the butterfly kits was such a great idea because it's completely doable by anyone who has a kit, and yet they can put their own mark on it to make it theirs. And as a vehicle for success and therefore getting people together, I think it looked like it worked real well.
Yeah, it did. We were really happy with it. So
I totally agree. I also think that like the symbolism behind the butterfly in terms of migration really works perfectly with working with or coming up with a really kind of wholesome concept behind the art. I love that you guys collaborated together, and also same as Frank said, I didn't put it together, and so it's really made that area of the mall really nice and bright. So great job.
thank you. I might have to give credit to the butterfly idea to Rachel, possibly. I don't remember anymore. It's been so long, but I don't think it was me.
Who
So.
Big old brainstorming time. Who never knows? Just beautiful things emerge. Although the butterfly has also been a symbol of different like immigration related programs and resources for a long time, and it's a brilliant symbol.
Yeah. If anyone doesn't know much about monarchs and how far they travel every year, you should look it up because it's very interesting. So.
Yeah. Well, terrific work. Oh, go ahead, Frank.
One other comment about butterflies, it's also a wonderful symbol for metamorphosis and change. So I think
brilliant.
a real synergy with both of those concepts.
Yeah.
Good point. I love that. It's a good connection.
We made
Thanks,
some really
everyone.
short videos at the ribbon cutting that we did. And I should have mentioned earlier, Will Rieger had a lengthier video made of that whole poetry celebration. So what I'll try to do after today, because they don't fit into a 5-minute presentation, but I'll certainly send them to the commissioners so that if you haven't seen them yet, or you didn't see them maybe when they got posted or anything like that, I'll send them so you get a chance to also watch those.
Great. Thank you.
Thank you, Jess.
Now we can move to the next presentation, right?
Yes, okay. Now we have Leslie Smith
Smith is
presenting the 2020 Urbana Arts Grant Black Voices Dramatic Arts Production.
Hi, my name is Leslie Smith. I just want to thank everyone for giving me the opportunity to give back to my community through the arts. This is let me see, let me get this over here. Oh, that's the next slide. Okay, so this is at me performing mime at one of the events called Gospel from the Hood. So originally, the proposal was going to be over the weekend for a 1 weekend. And because of COVID and we were shut down, and because of the capacity of buildings and things like that, I took the weekend, the main event, and kind of broke it up into a series. And that's how I came up on Can You Hear Me Now? It's the same, it would have been the same thing, just one day, right? But the capacity just didn't kind of work out. So, but it did showcase the multidisciplinary Black artistry. We did a hybrid the format allowed for people to participate online, Zoom and in person, with mask and social distancing. And I just like to say, take a pause here, that one young lady that did have COVID did perform on Zoom. However, she did pass away, unfortunately, but she was awesome. But the whole series took place over 10 months with the associated events. The funding supported space rental fees for rehearsal and performances, artist honorariums, and fees, supplies, and promotional materials, trophies, and things of that sort. We roughly had overall 120 people in person that participated, and we had over 1,500 views online. The first Can You Hear Me Now event series was Poetry in the Park. It was a poetry contest. We did have winners, first, second, and third place. And of course, I always believe that everybody's a winner. So I also gave the other participants a medallion for participating. The second was Blackness in the Music. It was more of a secular music program event. And there were all types of artists. There just weren't Black artists. So, and a lot of different types of music. And some of them I had never heard before. So it was really interesting for me in that series. And then the last series was Gospel from the Hood Showcases. I talked about early Explosion, where we had one of our local recording artists perform for us as well. And here we have some pictures of the Can You Hear Me Now in the park. And so it was supposed to actually be in the park. However, the weather got cold. And so we emphasized by putting the trees and the bushes on the stage to make it look like a park. And so this is some of the audience there. This is Blackness in the Music. I'm probably either doing an introduction or closing statements. Here is Gospel from the Hood. Again, you can see me performing. My mime here is praise dancing with the, from a church group in Urbana. It was a really awesome program. Really pleased. Okay, so this is some of the artists that performed at the Gospel from the Hood. The bands, the different bands, and yeah. So here are some of the marketing materials that were used for each of those events. These are not all inclusive. There were other marketing materials that went out, flyers and of the radio and Facebook groups and the Black Voices Theater Production website, the UCIMC website. So, yeah.
Oops, there you go.
Okay, current future projects. Okay, so my most recent work with Black Voices was I'm currently on the board of directors at the Urbana-Champaign Independent Media Center, serving as the co-chair for programming, and on the WRFU committee. I also have a radio show, which is with this grant called Word Up. It featured spoken word artists, and I had the opportunity to have Ashanti Fowles on there as well. Actually, she opened the first show. Also, we offered Step It Up, which is a steppers class, which is a two-step kind of dance for the community. I also participated in Black Her Story Slam. I did a poem. Teen Spotlight program, I was the workshop director at Station Theater, teaching people of color about theater. I also had a comedy show fundraiser for Black Voices and a silent auction along with mocktails. Instead of cocktails, we had it without the alcohol, so that's why it's called mocktails. I also directed a play with Enough. It was a national play. It was a play to end gun violence called Together. And so I also participated. I did a poem and a praise dance with Together Apart, a production at the Station Theater as well. And which also is part of the grant, featured an artist at the Urbana Public Library, and it was called Black Voices Presents Artists Impacted by Incarceration. Okay, so my sponsor and partners were, of course, you, the Urbana Arts and Culture Council, Urbana Champaign Independent Media Center, WRFU 104.5, the Urbana Park District, Courage Connection, Lisa Faye and the Inner Voices Social Issues Theater, the Urbana Free Library, Station Theater, Hood Vote, Neighborhood Transformation, HVNT. I went with them. I actually had one of the CEO also is a spoken word artist. He also was on the show, but they also were in the park doing having nonviolent events. And I was out there promoting Black Voices for sign-up sheets as an informational booth as well. The Writers of All, they performed at the poetry contest. And so these are the banners that were posted at each event. Yeah. And so here you can see over here down on the left right-hand corner is one of the pictures that was showcased in the Urbana Free Library showcase from the artist Harvester Baker. Here I'm in the studio with Maurice Hayes from HVNT, doing the spoken word work on WRFU. And the other two, well, the top picture is me doing guided imagery with the youth, with the workshop at Station Theater, Teen Spotlight, and also down here below are the youth that I worked with and directed that workshop as well with Station Theater. I'd like to thank you for your support. It was really exciting year. It was very challenging as well, but I enjoyed every minute of it. And hopefully I might apply for another grant another time. Thank you.
Terrific work, Leslie. Terrific work.
Nice.
What questions do you all have for Leslie? Questions or comments?
I'm really impressed by the turnout. You said you had over 100 in person and over 1,200. So yeah, you've done such a great job making sure you were kind of bringing in as many people as possible.
You were a driving force.
Underscore that.
Yeah, I think too that it really helped the community because we were going through the COVID and there was a big scare and people were dying and people were scared. And so this was kind of like a relief or, you know, a distraction from the madness because, you know, everything was so uncertain and you know, we were really in uncertain times. And so I was, you know, glad to be able to give them some relief or some distraction.
For sure.
I think one of the things for me, Leslie, that's like most profound is that Leslie was somebody who came early to attend arts grant workshops, came to the drop-in hours, like really made good use of everything that we offered when she was applying. And everything that you envisioned, you did. I remember sitting with you at Common Ground, Sarah.
Right.
At the Flatlander Kitchen, and we were talking all about this idea, and it really just absolutely came together. And even when you had to adapt it, I think you did a wonderful job. I want to underscore for everyone here, that list of projects that we mentioned at the end, that we heard at the end, that was everything done in the past year by Leslie. Directing multiple plays, joining boards of directors, like just being involved, so deeply involved in the community. And that, we've heard a lot tonight about people's deep involvement in the community. And I really just, in uncertain times, this is what we need. And it's so valuable. Of course, your time is also deeply valuable. So we all hope everybody's getting enough rest and all those things. But my goodness, what accomplishments of the past year, the reach that you've had. And of course, this project comes to mind similarly, with Wills as like so deeply multidisciplinary. You've got something for every kind of artist here, visual artist, performing artist, comedian, spoken word, mime, everything. I mean, it's just wonderful. There's a way to kind of get in there no matter what you're working on.
And so I hope to do this series again this year. But it looks like the numbers are going to go up high, and so it's going to be kind of challenging as well. But I also would like to, going forward, use the trauma-informed expressive arts and healing, help healing our community.
I mean, that's just going to be, I think, the future of so much important work happening all around. So thank you, and congratulations on a really successful project.
Thank you.
Thank you. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Rachel, at this point, it looks like we're ready for new business, and we're going to move on to the Tier 3 Urbana Arts Grants process overview.
Yes,
right?
Yes, we are. Hold on just a moment so I can get my little ducks in a row because I've got a lot of things open. Okay, so commissioners, you've heard me speak the last 3 meetings, just giving you a little bit of an update about Tier 3. Mainly, I'm trying my best to prepare you so that it doesn't come as a shock, especially to new commissioners, how the process goes. So one thing to make very clear, our next meeting is going to be on Tuesday, the 18th. So a week from today, we're going to be having another 4:30 p.m. special meeting. This is where we will hear directly from applicants in that Tier 3 category. This is all happening quickly because we receive the deadline for the grants is 2 days prior. So I will be getting all of those Tier 3 applications over to you. And as we're using Neighborly, this is our new software, you're gonna actually be scoring in Neighborly. So what I will be doing in the next couple of days is sending you a lot of information about setting up an account in Neighborly. It's pretty straightforward, to be honest. It's pretty simple software, but you'll just need to kind of, get in there and be able to make sure that you can view everything. So by next Monday, I will have uploaded all of the Tier 3 applications. Don't worry about giving them a serious read before you see these presentations. You can hear the presentations even if you have not read the written documents yet. Of course, if you've read the written documents, if you do have time for that Monday evening, Tuesday during the day before our meeting, that you can scan over them, it would just probably inform your questions more because you have an opportunity to ask questions. I went ahead and viewed our meeting from last year to kind of get fresh in my mind some of the advice I gave at that meeting, and I want to share it again today. So when you have that special meeting, you're going to be hearing directly from Tier 3 applicants. Typically, it's not a huge list of people because these do require a substantial cash match. They're usually really for larger events and programs. So you'll hear some presentations, probably, I'd say probably 5 or less. I'm not certain of the exact number until we receive applications. If we get a lot more than 5, I'll be very shocked, but maybe. You'll hear those presentations. They'll bring a PowerPoint. It's going to be on Zoom. They'll be walking you through their proposals. They've been encouraged to still keep it kind of limited in terms of time. You will have a chance to ask them questions about what you've heard. My advice, try to really assess every applicant as an individual applicant. Don't concern yourself with comparing one to the other. Really score them based on their work that they've given you only. And you want to also if you're going to ask a question of one applicant, my advice is ask it to every applicant. Because you'll probably have a chance to ask, and gather information similarly across all applicants. So I encourage you to do that too. And that doesn't mean the same commissioner needs to ask every question, but maybe commissioners, you can listen and notice what questions are being asked and maybe offer them up to everyone. But we want to encourage you to do that. And it doesn't mean that it has to only be that way. You could, of course, ask specific questions to that application, but if you're asking general questions, certainly be mindful of asking them of everyone. And I'm going to share the score sheet really quickly. And I will send this an email, but this is no longer the sheet we're using. It's just this exact information is now in Neighborly. So you will do this electronically. You don't need to pay attention to any score sheets this time around. You don't need to physically turn anything into me. You don't need to email me anything. It'll all be in the software. So just to kind of share again, what it looks like is we have information on instructions that we give. We, just like our juries, we grade on 3 things: artistic quality, project feasibility, and then community integration. So each of these sections gives you some suggestions of what could give somebody like a 30 score. And I usually advise people to begin giving people full scores and then deduct rather than try to add to, if in your mind. That can be another way of going about scoring. But you want to look at the kind of credentials that we give in each category, the criteria, and give the best assessment you can, and then you'll give comments. Now in Neighborly, it's considered a draft because you are also then coming together to discuss. You're bringing your initial scores. I will bring your initial scores, and I will also bring a summary of those scores with my recommendation to that discussion. At that point, I may present a recommendation that, you know, averaged a score that you have a big feeling about. You wanted that score higher or lower. That's your opportunity to also advocate for that project. That's your opportunity to discuss. And then we come to a final conclusion, then we vote. And that won't happen till our February meeting. So the January 18th meeting, you don't need to prepare anything. You just are coming to listen. You can take notes. But what you want to do is really be thinking about your scores. So at your computers, especially conveniently since we're going to be on Zoom, you can open Neighborly and actually have your scores, this criteria. And I can go ahead and send this to you in email, but I don't want you to use these. This is just the same information that we have in the software. So I can send it to you so you can have it in mind as you're listening to them. But that's all you're doing a week from today is we're listening to some presentations. After that point, I'll give you some instructions for how many days you have to give me your initial scores and your funding recommendations. I'll give you all of that through email and through Neighborly, and we'll get it together for the February meeting. And so ideally, you will vote and finalize at the February meeting, and you will hear and sort of give your nod of approval to all of the other jurors' recommendations for tier 1 and 2. So at our February meeting, a month from today, everyone should know whether they received an arts grant for 2022 and in what amount. So a lot's going to happen in a month. This is a very, very, very busy month for the arts program, probably the busiest of the year. Any questions about the process?
Rachel, I just wanted to say thanks so much for all your hard work. I know this is probably a lot coming down the pipeline for you in terms of answering questions and dealing with coordinating all of the grant submissions. So thanks for all your hard work.
Oh, thank you. Thank you guys for being really a part of this, making the tier 3 process a direct ask of the Arts Commission. It becomes the most important vote you have all year. And it's a really great decision. It's very consequential, of course, but it also really, you know, makes our community one that has a lot going on, especially in terms of those large scale events and festivals. Yeah. So I look forward to sharing them all with you as they wrap up their applications, and I'll try to get them over to you as quickly as possible.
Well, you'll probably get a barrage in the next 3 or 4 days, so.
Yeah, and just as a reminder, since you aren't voting at the special meeting, if you can't make it, you just need to watch it. So if you can't come a week from today, make sure you dedicate the time to watching it. And of course, I hope that we have quorum and everybody comes because it's your opportunity to ask them questions. But quorum wise, it's imperative that we have quorum in February meeting. So if you have to choose to only have, you know, 1 meeting in the next month, come to the February meeting. Watch the January 18th on the recording. All right, that's all I got. Thank you.
Well, when you say come to the meeting, do you mean come in person? Are we going to
Zoom.
be still Zoom?
In
Yeah,
Zoom land, I think we'll be continuing to be on Zoom for a while.
that's what I was afraid of.
And
the
Barbara,
rising
if you
cases
want
of-
any relief from being the person who continues to go in person, I will invite other commissioners to please consider giving her an opportunity to take a break from that and be willing to go in person. In order for us to be in compliance with the Open Meetings Act, we do need one commissioner. It can't be me, it can't be a staff person, a commissioner to go in person at the city council building.
well, at least
Barbara, I work across the street at Common Ground.
right,
So
sure,
if you ever
yeah.
need to be trading, never need to trade off, I'd be happy to waltz over,
Okay, thank you.
you know, a couple feet.
Do you want to
Yes,
do the
you are
18th,
closer.
Sarah?
Sure,
you
I'd be
want
happy
to,
to.
I will just warn you though that usually I've learned the last couple of meetings, the door to the council chambers is locked.
Yeah,
And
it's
you
an
have to
hour.
go next door to the, what is the
The other offices.
The
I'm sorry.
parking or the clerk's office.
city clerk's office. And then you
Mhm.
have to go through the back side, go into their office and come through the back and come around and then turn on the lights and the person in the UPTV room will set up the computer and do everything for you.
Okay, well, I'm happy to navigate. I've applied for some different permits with the city clerk, so I know where
Yeah.
that is.
Yeah, you just have to come down the hall and then turn right and it'll be then on your left.
Okay.
It's across
I'll
from the
make sure
elevator.
you're informed, Sarah, and I really appreciate you being willing. And folks, anyone who's willing, please consider taking one of the upcoming dates and going and sitting in person.
Mhm.
Barema's our new station manager. He will set up the computer and everything for you. So hopefully it'll go smoothly and I can help make that connection. So
Well,
thank you.
if you like, I'd be happy to be there for next meeting.
Well, that'd be great. I wouldn't mind. I don't mind doing it. It gets me out of my studio. But the last time I couldn't stay at the meeting because I had 9 cello players getting ready for a recital. And 2 days later, it was
The
a
arts never
little
stop.
it was a little chaotic that time. But if you want to
Yeah.
have the experience, certainly come on down, come on across.
Okay, I'd be happy to. I'd be happy
Okay.
to.
Great,
All right,
thank
I'll
you.
coordinate with you, Sarah, on that. Thank you all so much.
Well, at this point, if we have no other business to cover, I believe we can call for an adjournment. Do we have a consensus? I know I don't necessarily have to, I think, but I like the idea. Got a lot of thumbs up. I think everybody's ready. All right. Thank you so much for your participation. It's great to see all of you.